All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this next one, guys. We want to go ahead and graph this exponential equation. And we do have in this case g of x equals a negative 30 times 2 to the x. Now, in this case, guys, if we take a look at our common ratio, the common ratio, or actually the absolute value of that common ratio, is greater than a 1, which means we should have a growth here. We should have a growth. So let's go ahead and create a table. I am going to be setting up with our first term, which is 0, negative 30. Now, let's go ahead and try with what happens when we do a 1 with the 2, and maybe also a negative 1. So if I substitute in a 1 into the equation, that's just going to be 2 times a negative 30, which is negative 60. And then if I do a 2 to the second is 4. 4 times negative 30 is negative 120. And if I do decide to do a negative 1, 2 to the negative 1 becomes 1/2. And 1/2 times a negative 30 is negative 15. So let's go ahead and graph this. Let's go ahead and graph it. Now, notice in this case, guys, most of my stuff, my x's are positive and the y's are negative. So I am going to be focusing mostly on the third and fourth quadrant. I'll be showing some of the first and second, but my main focus in this case is going to be on the third and the fourth quadrant here. All right, so that's x and that's y. And let's say this one, this is a negative 1, that's a 1, and that's a 2. All right, and let's see how we can break this one up. All right, let's see how we're going to go ahead and break these up. And we'll go ahead and say that this is negative 30, negative 60, negative 90, negative 120, and then it just goes to negative 150, right? Now, let's go ahead and start off by plotting. I do have my starting point at 0, negative 30, and then 1, negative 60, 2, and 120. And then we also have that 1 and negative 15, which is going to be somewhere about here. So let's go ahead and actually create that graph. It's going to look something like that. That in this case would be an exponential growth. In this case, it would be an exponential growth. And that's assuming we actually graph this by hand. We could, in this case, also graph it on Desmos. So if I take out, in this case, our calculator, let's go ahead and go on to Desmos here. I did graph it beforehand just because I need to modify the axes, the x and the y axes in this case. Let's go ahead and bring that to a 10 maybe. And we could see it in this case a bit more clear. But in this case, this would be considered a growth. Like I said, guys, we could graph this on Desmos. We could, in this case, create a table. Once again, guys, you create a table by clicking on that settings, the one that's just highlighted now. It's going to give you 3 icons. Click on that first one, and it's going to allow you to create a table, and you do have a table of values. So that's a second option in this case, guys. If you guys don't want to graph it by hand, you guys can do it in this